In 2009, my best friend Sean and I started a wellness festival called Wanderlust in Lake Tahoe, California. You know, yoga, meditation, organic food, and a lot of lycra. But on the first day, much to my surprise, I witnessed a 50-foot Buddha roll into the parking lot, followed by a fire-breathing dragon. Not your typical yoga festival. Now, at first, I was confused. Who were these people? They didn't apply to be exhibitors. And then it dawned on me. I had unwittingly swam into the cultural wake of Burning Man. Welcome to the Commune podcast. My name is Jeff Krasno. So bees cooperate at scale until the queen dies and the colony generally collapses. Chimps cooperate too, but never really past 30 or 40 of them. Humans are unique in the sense that we can cooperate at scale, at least sometimes. And nothing demonstrates this capacity like what happens once a year, 90 minutes north of Reno, Nevada. For a week, over 70,000 people show up and cooperate with total strangers in a desert with spotty cell service at best. Now, every year has a theme. The first one back in 1995 was good and evil. There's been fertility, metamorphosis, animalia. This year, when Black Rock City rises again in just a few days, it's Axis Mundi, built around the idea of the man as kind of a world tree, an axis holding heaven and earth together. Now, it all started 40 years ago. In 1986, Larry Harvey and his friend, Jerry James, built an approximately 8-foot wooden figure and burned it on Baker Beach in San Francisco on the summer solstice. About 20 people were there. They returned the next year and the year after, and the gathering grew. And by 1990, several hundred people came to Baker Beach, and the authorities said, no, you can't burn that figure here. So later that year, Harvey and others connected with members of the Cacophony Society, and the event migrated to Nevada's Black Rock Desert. That 1990 desert gathering had roughly 80 people. It's grown a little since then. The median age of the burner has crept up, and so has the money. The share of attendees reporting household incomes over $300,000 roughly doubled over the last 10 years. And there's a name now for camps where you pay a company to build your site, stock your fridge, and staff it. Just burner plug and play. Now, the nonprofit that runs Burning Man, the Burning Man Project, has spent real energy fighting that trend. In 2022, 60 camps, art projects, and mutant vehicle groups were formally sanctioned for poor behavior or performance, and 9 groups were disinvited entirely. And the organization explicitly prohibits what is now called convenience camping, companies effectively selling you a turnkey Burning Man experience. Now, the event is loosely organized around 10 rules known as the 10 principles. The one that everybody asks about is the tension between two of them, radical self-reliance on one side and radical gifting on the other. Take care of yourself, but also give everything away for nothing. Now, when I put that question to Marian, her answer was interesting, that these two aren't in conflict with each other. She called them the same muscle, just pointed in two directions. Now, the experience of the playa is diverse. Depending on which block you wander into, it's a jazz club at 2 a.m. and a tea house an hour later, as though this were all just a normal city street. Some camps are unapologetically about sex. Others are entirely about kids and bedtime. And gifting is real out there, but it's not really about stuff. Trinkets become trash pretty quickly on the playa. They call it MOOP, matter out of place. And in a place where everything you bring in eventually must come back out, nobody really needs another plastic tchotchke. The gifts that stay with you are really more human. A breakfast taco that someone just made you, someone washing your hair, which matters more than it might sound, a Polaroid just pressed into your hand serendipitously, a stranger fixing your bike, or directions when you're inevitably lost. Now, for all of Burning Man's sexy spectacle, some of its best moments are unspectacularly small. Just somebody noticing what you need when you need it and giving it to you without asking for anything in return. I recently sat down with Marian Goodell. She's been part of Burning Man since 1995. She helped found the organization 2 years later and became its first CEO in 2013. Now, if you're picturing some hippie or Blade Runner character running this thing, you would be wrong. Marian, the eldest of 4 siblings, was raised Catholic in a Reagan Republican household. Not that she doesn't have her quirks. She wears cat earrings in public. Apparently, cat people recognize each other. Now, in our conversation, we got into this idea of collaborating at scale, why she wants more 22-year-olds out there, and what happens when the burn migrates to Israel or Romania or Latvia. This conversation happened on a stage at Harvest Series, an annual thought leadership gathering held every year on the Aegean coast in Kaplankaya, Turkey. Super grateful to the whole Harvest team for having us out there and making this conversation possible. I served as the MC for the gathering this year. So the night before, we were at this incredible dinner around a long table, and Marian at some point just got up and lit every votive candle down the whole length of the table herself. Nobody asked her to do it. That gives you a little window into who she is. So here's my conversation with Marian Goodell. So who likes to throw a party here, huh? Anybody? Who likes to, we got some party throwers. Okay, how about for 80,000 people for 8 days? Well, I don't know, not so much, maybe. So our next speaker, well, she doesn't really actually throw a party. Some people confuse it as a party, but this is an immersive, transformational gathering characterized by radical self-expression, self-reliance, gifting, leaving no trace, being present in immediacy. And of course, I'm talking about Burning Man, right? So this is, how many people have gone? Marian and I were talking last night. We were very curious. Pretty good. Pretty good. Okay. So this happens every year, about 90 minutes north of Reno. It's 80,000-ish people, 70 to 80,000 people. Marian is the CEO. It's a nonprofit, and she administers a budget somewhere in the $70 million range to pull this thing off, and builds a city and blows it away. So please welcome Marian Goodell.
Thank you. There's an image of Black Rock City that I would love to have up while we're talking.
So we're going to have a chat.
I'm looking forward to this, Jeff. Thank you so much. I was trying to tell Jeff he should go to Burning Man because he has manifested great festivals. We were dropping in, having a lot of, we were jazzing on how you pull things together. It's hard for either of us to be at a gathering like this and not look, oh, how do the people move? How do they change the stage?
Thieves recognize each other. Yeah. Indeed, I got caught into the cultural wake of Marian's work because I started Wanderlust, which was a festival. And in 2009, it was really just a yoga and wellness festival in Lake Tahoe. And on the first day, all of a sudden, I saw 50-foot Buddhas and fire-breathing dragons like rolling into the parking lot. I was like, what is going on here? And then I realized that I had been so fortunate to tap into this cultural force that is Burning Man. So thank you and no thank you for everything you've done for me.
You're welcome.
So
I'm pretty impressed, though. I think I saw at least a third of the people here have been to Burning Man.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
And I know that you mentioned this to me, that increasingly your audience is very, very international. It's not just hippies from Northern California.
We have about 20% of the participants at Burning Man are from other countries. And last year we had 92 countries represented by the mailing address on their credit card.
92 countries. How many countries are there? Like 200 maybe.
Well, I think 180 something. Does anybody know that? It kind of changes over time. Yeah.
All right. So I know we wanted to...
And I just want to tell everybody what they're looking at, by the way. So if you haven't been to Burning Man, you're looking at Black Rock City. Black Rock City holds as much as 80,000 people. I think this year it was taken, would have been 75 or so. We're around 70,000 these days. And yeah, also we don't sell anything but ice. So you're bringing everything you need to survive. And that's part of the adventure, being there.
I think I see you. You're right.
You might, actually. Yeah, I'm near the center. Yeah.
As you would be. Last night, and we'll get into it, but just to give you a little window into Marian's spirit, we were at this long table at this magnificent dinner over here, and Marian got up to light the votive candles along the entire table herself, and I was like, this is a woman that cannot stop throwing a party. It was really quite amazing. I love your spirit. Now, we were talking, and you said, well, let's frame our conversation through the lens of collective enterprise, right? Because I'll just start with this statement, that the success of the human species is predicated on our ability to cooperate flexibly at scale. It's so unique to our species. Like bees can cooperate at scale, but the queen dies and the colony collapses. Or the chimps, they're flexible, but they're not really at scale. But Burning Man is this confection of cooperating flexibly at scale. So why is that important, and how do you pull that off, and how are people actually collaborating at scale there?
Yeah, the question usually comes up, how can 70,000 people be collaborating together? We're not selling anything but ice. People they know to bring everything they need to survive. There are no trash cans, by the way. There's no rubbish bins. We don't have a cleanup crew that walks through the camps and picks up the rubbish. That's what we're all doing together. You know, there's a couple of ways to answer that. One is, obviously, I think we need this kind of collective experience more than ever. I think gatherings like this at 250 people, and when they scale to Glastonbury, which is even larger at 180,000, these are places that are teaching us the skills of collaboration and of working together. We're so used to being in our lives and bumping into people on the subway and in the stores and not saying hello and making a transaction and not making eye contact and going about our business. But that really keeps us isolated. The experience of really, you know, my nature was bred in ways that aren't obvious towards Burning Man, but Burning Man really has given me the opportunity to be warm and friendly and connective, even though it's a hard world and I need to introvert and go and hide. But we need this kind of environment. And how does it work at 70,000 people? For a couple of reasons. One is because people want to do it. I'm not forcing anybody to be there. There are no hotel rooms at Burning Man. There are some camps that are comfortable, but the majority of people have worked really hard to bring everything they need there to survive. And I think that the challenge of thinking through how you'll take care of yourself in the context of other people is part of what people feel motivated to do. Because once you have this opportunity to work in collaboration, you feel compelled to keep doing it. It gives you a sense of connection, a sense of community, an immediacy. I was imagining, you know, you and I were talking, and it's rained the last couple of years at Burning Man. And surprisingly, when I say to people, I'm so sorry about the rain, and they'll be like, no, that's part of the challenge, because it forces a group of people to work quickly together to solve a problem. And they bond by doing that together. They're forced to work together. And I believe it works collectively because everybody comes knowing, I got to bring my own stuff. I can't buy anything, and I have to be prepared to work together.
Yeah.
That's community.
That's beautiful. Nietzsche said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? And, you know, Mark has written books about adversity mimetics, and, you know, Dan talked about this in terms of longevity, that in the modern world, we've essentially engineered a ecosystem of endless convenience. Like we can DoorDash anything. You know, we have thermoneutrality. We have copious shelf-stable calories. We can access any information that we want anytime. But there's tremendous utility to adversity and stress in the right doses. So can you tell me a little bit about how the Burning Man community approaches adversity? Because we hear about it, we're like, oh man, the dust storms and the rain deluges. You know, how do you deal with it?
Well, I don't know that I deal with the adversity as much as the community deals with the adversity. I mean, the 10 principles were set up only after time. You know, I think it's fair to give just a hair of history for the more than 50% that haven't been. Burning Man was actually started 40 years ago on a beach. It was the summer solstice, literally almost 40 years ago. And it was a one-night celebration of a man's angst over a loss and of being an adopted child. And he was very introverted, and people came and stood around him and his friend as they had built this 8-foot human figure. And it really, I've seen photos of it, and is other than the act of doing it, it was nothing artistic. But people came around it. They saw the fire on the beach. And they did it again and again on the summer solstice until too many people showed up. And they were bummed that they couldn't burn it because the law enforcement said 800 people is too many, it's too much chaos. And they took it to the desert. And this is the Black Rock Desert, which is basically 400 square miles. That's why I love this photo, is you can see how far the desert goes here. And by going to that desert together, they did not want to take everything to take care of everybody else. They had zero interest in taking away their friends' trash. They had zero interest in bringing food. Even though we liked to go camping together and be communal, that was an opportunity for them to start fresh. And it was 80 people that went. And everybody took turns staying up to make sure the next car came. We didn't have WhatsApp. We didn't even have websites then. You know, this is word of mouth. There used to be a phone tree to make this thing happen. Right? So the roots started from a place of authentic collaboration. It didn't start as a festival. I wasn't hired. I didn't fill out an application. I showed up one day and started doing my part, and then more than my part, and got recognized for someone that was doing something. And all of those values are still how we function and how we continue, and what we expect from people that come to it. If anybody expects me to be a typical festival producer and that there's going to be rubbish bins and that they're going to come and complain about something that they could solve themselves, you know, they're going to get bored and they're not going to want to come back. I find it much more interesting to create an environment that actually empowers the people to be the change makers at Burning Man, to bring the art, to bring themselves. That's the part that keeps people coming to, you know, everything here you see. The organization, there's a cafe down there on the left, and now that's an interactive art space. And the man is there in the middle, and then there's a temple. And the organization puts $1.5 million directly to artists, and then another $5 million to support the arts. But there's tens of millions of dollars of art out there that are self-funded. There are tens of millions of dollars of art cars, which are like floats. And the camps, I mean, look at these camps. People have taken everything they have. They've got rugs like this, and they have beautiful cushions and places to chill, and they have speakers and everything. And I have not created a single stage. And I really believe that the desire for a group to actually create together is the group's also desire for the survival of the experience.
So the glue and the North Star, hello, young man, of for future burner right here for sure.
Well, his daddy, where are you?
That's right. He was very involved.
Gio was very influential in the second largest Burning Man event outside of Black Rock City, which is held in Israel. The largest outside of Black Rock City. That's your papa, yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and Barbara went to the first largest one, which is called Africa Burn. They're happening in 80 countries, and last year 100,000 people went to 100,000 people went to Burning Man events, and 70,000 went to this one. So we're working towards 200,000 people that are experiencing Burning Man, but you don't have to go here to do that.
Amazing.
So thank you, Gio. And there's Barbara.
Yeah.
Like, if anybody wants to talk about Burning Man, don't come to me, but come to the people that have been to Burning Man, because your stories are a lot more interesting than mine.
So is getting at these 10 principles that provide the North
that's the
Star
core.
and the glue of what it is to be Burning Man.
Mm-hmm.
And, Barack was talking about dialectic synthesis or positive tension. So there is a little positive tension between some of the principles. And specifically, I'm talking about, this idea of self-reliance, of radical self-reliance that you just alluded to, but also gifting and communal enterprise. Can you talk a little bit about how those dance together?
Yeah, I mean, the 10 principles are the secret sauce. They were not written from the beginning. They came up over time, just like the rest of it. And when in the early 2000s, people would leave Burning Man and wanted to know, well, how can I do my own? And what are the rules? And we looked back on our history, and we looked back over culture jamming and performance art in San Francisco, and realized that it's successful with a number of these principles. Deliberately, radical self-reliance is very important, and so is communal effort. Either one of these alone doesn't solve the problem. And the 10 principles are also meant to be viewed together as a body of work. So you have participate, you have immediacy, you have communal effort, you also have civic engagement or civic participation. We see ourselves as a civic entity. So if you're in a city or town, you have some responsibility to make sure the town survives. You follow the rules. Communal effort, certainly, like I said before, is building things together. But don't rely on the communal part to just feed you and clothe you and give you shelter. You have to come up ready to do that yourself.
I think what's also really unique and special about Burning Man is that it manages to bring people together across the political aisle in a way that seems very difficult to do these days.
Oh, politics, geography, religions, it's a mandatory part of what we try to make it accessible. Mm-hmm. The organization, most of us, you'll never hear us discussing any politics whatsoever, but we range the spectrum is across the board. The countries are across the board. The art is from all over the world. I met a woman last night who I believe you're designing your sets. Is she here? Who's Turkish. She received a grant from Burning Man Arts in 2022. We're every country that wants to show up, and every politics and everything. It's a platform. We're not for hate speech, and we do not want hatred, and you will not find a welcome environment for that kind of behavior. But you will find a welcome environment, right? But you will find a welcome environment for your creativity and yourself and your authenticity.
All right, I want to get a little under the hood of who it is to be Marian Goodell. Okay, sorry, I didn't give you any warning here.
Jeff.
So, I think that you might make a great monk. Now, Satish Kumar is here. He was a monk, a real monk. Yeah. But hello, Satish.
Hello, Satish.
But what you create is not dissimilar from what the Tibetan monks actually create. I'm talking about these vast, meticulously crafted sand mandalas, right? That they make over weeks. Doesn't look that different than this photo, actually, only to blow them away. And, you need to be comfortable with impermanence and with letting go. And I wonder if that is an essential aspect of your character. Like, are you cool with just tearing it down, or is there a part of you that's like, I just want to keep this thing up?
No, I'm actually really cool with building it again. That's what we used to say a long time ago. People would say, well, how can you burn everything? And we don't burn everything. We probably burn less than 8 art pieces anymore. I love building it. You know, that's what I love doing. So I love building it. We build it, we inhabit it, we learn from it, and we take it all away. Thank God we take it all away, because to maintain a city is not really what I'm here for. I'm here to maintain and support the culture. So the building part of it is just an exercise.
Yeah. But do you feel that the 10 principles could actually provide a guideline for a community that's not ephemeral? Like, could we actually take this,
Sure.
what you've created,
Yeah.
and superimpose it on San Francisco or Istanbul?
Well, Dan asked me the same question the other day. He's like, where is the physical version, the long-time physical version of Burning Man? There are. People are buying property together. The Africa Burn community bought a piece of property together. The community in, they call Borderlands, which is Sweden and Denmark, bought property. And then there's Burning Man groups that buy property to have vacation communities and usually set up communally. But the organization is not as motivated because, again, I think we're a facilitator. I mean, there's enough challenge in the governance of a nonprofit for me to want to try to create a governance around a physical village. But the principles of what we do and how we lead are translatable anywhere. And I think that is why groups that are not always known to each other previously. Charlotte, who's here, she has come to Burning Man with her family, and Steve Tam both were part of a camp that I knew really well. And they didn't all know each other before they created the camp, but they created this lively world called Pineapple Motel. And from there, then they become sort of a tribe out in the world. So these tribes or these groups or these friends, I want them to be empowered to go further with the experiment. I think that Burning Man is a learning laboratory. So the more that we have academics come and watch what we're doing, we've had a Nobel Prize-winning economist come and write an article for the New York Times saying that our economy, our economic way of engaging with each other is extremely powerful. I've got another economist coming this year. I want people to experiment with what's the result of this. I had a mental health professional from New York who told me that this was his regeneration experience, that he takes his vacation to come to Burning Man because building with people and talking with people, he's not in therapy with them, he's regenerated by the sense of connection that comes naturally.
So one of the principles is radical self-expression. Does Marian have a freak flag that she flies every once in a while? Because you seem to be honest. Like, if I were to, in my mind's eye, imagine the CEO of Burning Man, I would like imagine sort of a Blade Runner style, like hippie, crazy person. But like, you're a very upright citizen. Like, you probably pay your taxes and you have meetings and Zoom calls and whatnot. What's your freak flag? Come on, you've got one.
I do pay my taxes. When I first joined the other founders, I found out 2 of them hadn't paid their taxes in 5 years. I was like, well, okay. Gosh, I was raised fairly conservatively. Reagan Republican father, Catholic family. I'm the oldest of 4 children. I think I'm a really good representative of Burning Man because I'm not what people think would be leading Burning Man. I think often people don't even know there's a CEO or someone doing it, and that's kind of what we want. We want people to embody it and step into it and not expect someone else to do all the work and lead it. You know, if anything, I have a quirk that I love cats, and so I'll wear cat earrings and necklaces, but honestly, it's so that I can meet other cat people and I don't have to talk about Burning Man all the time.
Oh, cool. Because when I gave my opening talk, I think I equated imagination to an outdoor cat. Right? I think you're an outdoor cat.
I am an outdoor cat. I'm a lot more feral than I can be in my position.
I want to see that. All right, we're going to take a few questions from people in the audience, right? I can run out there. Here, I'll do the first one. What's your name?
My name is Linda, and I am a long-time regional burner. So I started with the Borderlands 10 years ago.
Oh, great.
I've also been to Africa Burn, and I've noticed that at the regional burns, there's often an 11th principle. So in Borderland, it's consent. In Africa Burn, it's each one teach one. And so my question would be, have you considered adding an 11th principle? I am actually going to ask a two-part question. And then also, how do you look at, because I think a lot of long-time burners have seen the culture changing. So do you find it necessary to kind of revisit the principles? How do you kind of manage the culture shifting and changing, and also that interface with the regional burns?
That's a complex series of questions. We look at the principles all the time. We try to make sure that we see them as relevant. For where we're sitting and what we're doing, we're happy with the 10 principles. Most of the principles that people want to add are actually common sense, good human behavior towards other people. We believe these 10 principles, when they work together, will actually create the output that we want. And we don't want to create more rules. And it's fine that a couple of the groups have added different principles, but at this point, that's not the plan for us. The future is the regionals. To have 100,000 people attend regional events last year and 70,000 in Black Rock City, I believe our numbers have diminished slightly because that people are going to other places. It's costly to come to America. I think once you come to the Big Burn, is what people call it, or Black Rock City, you've got the DNA. And so that's what's made the regional network so powerful and thriving, is that so many people have got, okay, I got this, and then can show up. The same structure. There's no trash cans at any of these events, as you know, because you've been there. There's nothing sold. And it's thriving and it's multiplying. And I met a young lady from Romania yesterday. Romania has a 400 person Burning Man event. Latvia, Lithuania. I'm here to tell the story so people think, wow, I can actually live my life more connectively, and I can build great community and do it differently. I hope that helps. I don't know if I hit everything, but I think I kind of did.
I got someone right here. Hello, love. What's your name?
Hello, I'm Maria.
You have a beautiful outfit, Maria.
Thank you so
Colorful.
much. The magic of the unicorn, always.
Ow.
So, Marian, thank you so much for you. Yesterday, we had a beautiful conversation, and I know that you said you want to bring more young people to Burning Man, but I didn't get to ask you why. Why do you want to bring more young people to Burning Man?
Well, I think one of the most powerful parts of Burning Man is it's multi-generational. And a young lady that I met who hadn't been, she's 22 years old. She offered to be our intern. She came as an intern. She had just left university, and afterwards she said, wow, I didn't find enough of my generation here, and how can I help Burning Man do that? And I said, well, what did you get out of it? What do you want to tell others? And she said, well, first of all, it's not like it looks like on Instagram, and all my friends think it is. And she said, it's not as expensive as people think. You can really find a way to come to Burning Man and cost less. But she said one of the things that she loved the most was intergenerational conversations. And she said everybody treated her like she was the same age, and nobody spoke to her like a student or like a young person, and that people were judging each other about how they had a conversation. And she said she had more all ages conversations that first year at Burning Man than she had in as long as she could remember. And then the other side for me personally, yes, there's succession planning. That's a no-brainer. But I really dig the conversations with people that are not my own age. And the way in which the world is changing, and I think this woman asked also about the changing of the principles and the values. If we just hold on to what I see or I saw from the beginning, I think it will die. But if we can all be always in a place of learning and openness and curiosity with all ages, it's gonna thrive, and it's gonna be a better place. And so my biggest mission and my biggest passion is to see young people coming to Burning Man. That's I think Gio says he's hoping to bring his son in the near future. Like, we have 1,000 children under the age of 16 at Burning Man, and then after that, many, many, many ages. Thank you, Maria.
I think we were having a conversation with my daughter the other night, too, where there's a whole interesting sort of sober, curious generation of young people that I think has a potential place in Burning Man.
Well, that's why when Taylor came up to me, and we were at a psychedelics conference in Denver, and she was a volunteer there, and she said, you know, I know what it's all about. I don't really need to go. And here I was at a psychedelics conference. And then when she took on the internship, and it was about 2 weeks before going to Burning Man, she called me up. She said, I have an embarrassing question. And I said, what? She said, I've been doing psychedelics for a long time, but I was thinking, I don't really want to go to Burning Man and do any psychedelics. Is that okay? I said, it's fine. She said, will I get pressured? And I said, well, no. So that's a really interesting moment, again, from a young person's perspective, that it was all going to be psychedelics and she was going to get pressure. Reminds me when I was in high school and I wasn't ready to drink yet, and I was worried that people were going to pressure me to drink. It's not quite what people think in that regard. It is a place where people have experimented. And I mean, look at this place. It looks like where your imagination and your curiosity it's wide open. And I think that's why some people have chosen it as a location to experiment. Honestly, it is so psychedelic there without psychedelics. Yeah. But your daughter was right. I took a note that the Taylor and her group, because they often talk about it not being necessary for psychedelics whatsoever.
Well, Marian, thank you for doing what you're doing in an era of fracture and loneliness and atomization. There could be nothing more important than bringing people together. So I know we're all very grateful for your work.
I'm grateful to be here. You know, my closing thoughts might be, there's your son's hand is up, but, you know, we all need mental health breaks. And this opportunity, clearly, it creates a setting and experience for to rest our minds and engage with others. But people should really see the opportunity of collaborating and building together as a bigger mental health break than they realize. You're not coding, and you're not answering the phone, and you're not setting up meetings, although I'm sure Steve Tam will agree that it takes a lot of meetings and a lot of spreadsheets to bring a camp together. Once you get there, there's no laptop. You're using your relationship and your friendships. And on the outside, on the output of it, you know, the bonding of, like, the burners that raise their hands here, it's like, you know, you're like, oh, you went to Burning Man? And then, again, raise your hands if you've been to Burning Man. So if you're Burning Man curious, go ask any one of these folks what it is that they got from it. Because I'm fairly certain that most of you have a positive experience, and that whether you can still come or not, that it holds a place as a healing and mental health opportunity for you.
Great. Everyone, let's express our appreciation for all the work that Marian's doing. Thank you so much. Thank you. And now...